another Wizards Unite video, and as soon as I get out of this animation screen, we're gonna get into today's topic, which will be me attempting, in all my arrogance, to rank all the skills for solo battle in the game, and you know, let's go from worst to best. And when I say worst, the worst skill on the list isn't actually really that bad. It's just, you know, in comparison to the others. Doesn't mean it's bad. Just, yeah, in those terms. Anyways, let's get into this. Although I kind of want to get that high. Oh, whatever. Never mind. Yeah, let's get into this. So, before we get into the actual rankings, let's just establish some things. This is only for solo play, so there are a few skills that I'm going to take out of here. Namely, we're going to take out Magizoologist's Revive Charm, because you don't have anyone to revive when you're playing solo, and also Auror's Focus Charm, which you don't have any teammates to give to. And yeah, Revive Charm, you can't revive yourself. Focus Charm, you can't focus yourself. That doesn't make sense. So yeah, we're not going to talk about that. And also, we're not going to talk about the Bravery Hex, as well as the Mending Charm from both the Magizoologist and Professors, just because they just don't make that large of an impact on the game. If you really want to say the worst skills, then sure, these two are probably the worst. Maybe Mending Charm's a bit worse than the Bravery Hex. Bravery Hex does have like some really niche uses. So there's that. So anyways, let's get into this. Starting from number 7, the weakest on this list for solo is it has to be the Stamina Charm from Magizoologist. Stamina Charm is really a disappointment. It's not a terrible hex, like, you know, it heals. Healing HP is always good, but it only heals 30%, and it costs 2 focus, so really a decently expensive charm here that doesn't even heal that much in comparison to Revive Charm, where you could like just res 100% of your teammate with only 1 focus, even though you can't do that in solo. But then, you know, Stamina Charm, it's just not that great of a skill. I mean, it's like the other thing with Stamina Charm is you could totally just replace it with potions, healing brews. So even if you're not a Magizoologist, you basically have access to these to this skill if you have enough, you know, healing brews. So that's why Stamina Charm is probably one of the worst on this list for soloing. And yeah, as I said before, it's not overall a horrible skill, but just in comparison to the others, it's not that great. So moving on to the next one. The next two are kind of, they're very similar in terms of usefulness and uses, actually. So you could totally change the position of these two skills, but overall they're around 6th and 5th. So I think the 6th should be over here, Protection Charm. Reason being, and spoiler, number 5 would be Weakening Hex. The reason why Protection Charm is lower than Weakening Hex is just because, for one, it costs 3 focus to activate, and then when you max it out, it only increases your defense by 30%, in which Weakening Hex, for only 1 focus, decreases incoming damage by 50%, which, although there are a lot of differences in this, but basically, you know, the straight up damage you take, if we're not counting anything else, Weakening Hex just takes less damage overall in comparison to Professor. Obviously, Professor, you could stack that defense with your own defense, and then, you know, in some cases, you can... Actually, you know what? I'm not even sure if Professors can get to 100% defense playing solo. I'm pretty sure... yeah, you know what? I'm pretty sure they can. But, you know, get to really high defense, so if you stack all that with Protego and stuff, you do take less damage, but then again, it's 3 focus. But the upside of Protection Charm, and this is a reason why you could totally rank it over the Weakening Hex for Auras, is you only have to apply this once, and then it's with you for the whole battle. Unlike Weakening Hex, which you can only, you know, you'll have to apply it each time when you want to use it. So yeah, that's number 6, and I basically went over number 5 here, Weakening Hex. It's really great. So the problem with with these two skills is, and to an extent Stamina Charm as well, this game, when you get to the higher levels, defensive skills are not nearly as important as offensive skills. The more damage is basically king in this game so far, so that's why these 3 more defensive skills are ranked a bit lower on the list. So yeah, poor thing. They're still decent skills, but you know, they got their issues here and there. Going on to number 4. Number 4 and number 3 are kind of in the same position as Weakening Hex and Protection Charm. So you could really swap these two depending on what you value more. So personally, I'm putting number 4 for Proficiency Charm and number 3 for Brave Charm. Reason being, Proficiency Charm and Brave Charm, these are, you know, we're getting into these DPS skills, right? The damage boosts, these two are the main damage boosts skills in the game. Both similarities, both do cost 7 focus, very, very, very expensive, but well worth if you actually do have the spare focus to use. So the problem with Proficiency Charm is not every foe you're gonna face is going to be something that you're proficient against. And you know, there's only 2 out of how many, 6 enemies that you're proficient against, and the higher chamber you go, you know, it's not like the lower ruins where like almost every enemy you face is gonna be a curiosity for professors. So there are more variety the higher you go, so there could be a chance in where you go through a chamber and then you fight like nothing that you're proficient against. And actually, you know, it's totally anecdotal, but happened to me quite a few times. I was, you know, trying to solo I think Forest 3 or 4, and like I just can't, whole run 0 beasts. So that could be a problem with Professor, and also the boost isn't as high as Brave Charm for the damage boost that you get, but overall a really, really strong skill here. Really costly, and that's, I guess, another thing you have to consider when you know, using this charm is Professors, you have so many great skills that need you to spend focus on, and it's just sometimes kind of hard to actually justify using a Proficiency Charm. So moving on to Brave Charm. Brave Charm, the reason why I ranked it slightly over Proficiency Charm, and like again, you could disagree and then put Brave Charm under Proficiency Charm, it really depends, is that it's a bit more consistent in its usage. Like you could, it's you know, it's kind of uncommon to go through a whole you know, chamber in the higher levels without fighting anything you're proficient against, but it's really, really rare to not fight an elite foe in either like in the higher chambers, say mid to high forest, or you know, just any of the dark chambers. It's really, really rare that you would not fight an elite foe at all. So Bravery Charm, the biggest thing about Bravery Charm is its multiplier, 150%. That's one of the largest multipliers in game. It's pretty ridiculous. And you know, for those who've used Bravery Charm, like using it and not using it, like the difference is glaring. It's unbelievable how much of a difference the Bravery Charm makes against elites. But then again, the only drawback to this is it's only effective when you're facing elites. So when you're not facing elites, it's basically no use. It's a 7 focus skill thing. But you know, when you do see elites, you can pop this thing and you just roll over them. Especially if you're fighting stuff that you're deficient against, this could come in like extremely clutch. Like I don't even think it's possible, like in like Dark 3 or 4, to actually beat something in time if you actually fight a elite werewolf or something in like the higher dark chambers without using both Bravery Charm or potions. So yeah, it's a pretty great skill. So moving on to the top 2. The top 2 is, I guess, quite controversial. Which one's better? So last 2 skills left, Confusion Hex and Deterioration Hex, right? I've been going through these 2 and doing, you know, some damage calculations here and there, and it's really, really hard to say which one's better. So I'm gonna go off a limb and say, you know what, I still haven't really decided. It's so difficult to decide which one's better. So I'm just gonna list out all the pros and cons of each, and then hopefully I'll come to a conclusion here. So for Confusion Hex, the great thing about it is it only costs 1 focus, and it's extremely cheap. Like Auror, like basically for every enemy you're fighting, you could use both hexes as long as it's not fixed yet. You could just keep on using both hexes on each opponent. You know, you don't have to choose between any other skills. Like, you're 100% gonna have them on your opponent as long as it's not an Acromantula or Death Eater, since they don't apply to those two. But when you're not fighting those, it's so good when you put it, especially on you know, dangerous or fierce enemies, especially dangerous and fierce Urklings / Pixies. They have a 60% dodge rate there. So like let's see, Confusion Hex, when you max it out, it decreases their dodge rates by 60. So if you don't use it, then every 6 attacks out of 10 attacks against a fierce Pixie or Urkling is going to miss. You're going to do 0 damage 60% of the time against them. So it just increases your damage output so much against Pixies and Urklings, and even against, you know, werewolves and dark wizards. The decrease in their defense just allows you to do so much more damage. For those, you know, Magizoologists who play solo and fight werewolves, we know how terrible the experience is fighting werewolves when you know, their defense is still up and we're deficient against it. Like, it's hell fighting werewolves as Magizoos, right? So breaching their defense is absolutely great. It just increases your damage so much, and then you have that extra added perk of like impairing their defense breach, so you don't take as much damage. That plus the weakening hex just makes the supposedly frail Aura actually be able to take a lot of hits. So Confusion Hex, all in all, it just does so much things for only 1 focus, which is why it's so great. So moving on to Deterioration Hex. Deterioration Hex used to be the unquestionable strongest skill in the game before it got nerfed. So after it got nerfed, so before it got nerfed, it's 80 damage per activation. Now it's 40, you know, per activation. So something really weird about Deterioration Hex, and I'm not 100% sure if it's intended or if it's a bug. It says in the description is impair foe stamina plus, you know, mine's a +5 since I didn't level it, but you know, when you max it out, it's impair foe stamina plus 40. I would read that and interpret it as like it's just a straight 40, you know, stamina decrease on your opponent regardless of defense, you know, proficiency or deficiency defense or any of that, right? But actually that's not the case. It actually does get, you know, affected by proficiencies, you know, deficiencies and all that jazz, right? So I don't know what the heck's going on here, but it does get affected by those. So there's that. And also Deterioration Hex for 3 focus, it is quite expensive. Then again, all professor skills are expensive, but it is so good. It does so much damage, it's unbelievable. Like, like Deterioration Hex is why professors have, usually with, you know, Dancing with the Dummies and First Strike, still not fixed at the moment, is why they have the greatest, you know, DPS of all the professions. Even though Aura does have the best stats in that department, but you know, it's Deterioration Hex is really, really great. But personally, at the moment, I would say Confusion Hex is just a slightly bit more better than Deterioration Hex, just because, you know, it just does so much in comparison to Deterioration Hex. What Deterioration Hex does have over Confusion Hex is there are 2 enemies that you can't put Confusion Hexes on. Well, you can put them on there, but it just doesn't do anything. But Deterioration Hex, you can put it on any enemy. Like, you could, everything that you fight, you could put it on. So maybe you would personally value that more over, you know, what Confusion Hex has to offer. And you could put Deterioration Hex as the strongest skill in the game as well. So, yeah, anyways, that's me for this one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, this is totally objective, so if you have different views on the rankings and stuff, just let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel for more Harry Potter Wizards Unite content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.